Hi, Steve here from Photo Mastery Club, and in this video I'm just going to be talking about why I prefer to use bracketed exposures and then blend these exposures manually in Photoshop compared to using a grad filter, because with a lot of the images that I post, people always ask me, why don't I just use a grad filter and it would save all this time in Photoshop with the exposure blending. So this video really is in answer to that. So the image on the screen at the moment is a perfect example of when you would be faced with this choice of whether to create bracketed exposures or just use a filter in your camera. The reason being, the foreground is really dark and the sky is really bright, so this is basically the classic scenario. So what I've actually done is I've got two exposures here. So this is the first exposure, and then to kind of show you and to run through the example, I've actually got another exposure here which I did take at the time, which is about 3 stops darker. So this one, that's the equivalent, like 3 stops is a typical grad filter kind of filter level. So this is going to be a good example to show you on. Now what I've done to kind of mimic the effect of a grad filter, I've got a layer mask here applied to this top layer, which has just got a gradient applied to the layer mask, just a black to white gradient. So what happens when I disable and then re-enable this, you can see the top is getting darker and bringing that 3 stops darker exposure through in the image beneath. And so that's pretty much just mimicking what a grad filter would do. Now I've also unlocked the layer mask itself, so there's usually a little chain icon here. I've clicked that to get rid of it, and now what that allows me to do is just with the move tool I can just slide this up and down so that we can sort of really start to mimic the effect of a grad filter. So when it comes down to it, here is the reason why I prefer to shoot with multiple exposures and then blend them manually in Photoshop, and that is because with a grad filter you've got a just a straight let me just bring this into view here. So you've just got like a from top to bottom, white to black, or in camera that would be black to clear. Now what this means is that it's going to darken everything like above, like a horizontal line, evenly. But we don't actually want that unless our horizon is completely flat and there's nothing above the horizon that we want to keep bright. So for example here we've got these the escarpment, just I'm not sure if you'd call them cliffs, but anyway we've got this area up here that when I've applied that grad filter, just click on the mask again. When I apply this grad filter, you can see it's darkening the sky, and that's great, but it's also darkening these rocks. So what that means is that we're going to have to go in here in Photoshop anyway to go and kind of recover that shadow detail, and that's going to take just as much time as it would blending these manually and just making sure that the sky is the part that's mostly recovered, and then maybe the cliffs here would get a little bit darker naturally. But the big benefit of blending these yourself is that you get to choose exactly how much each area in the sky and in the foreground gets brightened, and you can take into account the fact that you've got things that are running through that line, through that horizontal area of darkening that would otherwise just be completely dark if you'd used the grad filter. So that really sums it up. It's quite a quick video, like I said. Now let me just hide these 2 layers here, and you can see this is just a quick exposure blend that I did, actually using 3 exposures that I took on this particular morning. And you can see there, we've got the sky obviously is quite bright over here. We've got the nice darkening effect in the clouds, but then also this cliff face here is nice and bright, as it was and as it should be without that telltale sign of just completely being darker than anything else in the whole shot, thanks to a physical grad filter on the lens. So that should hopefully answer the question of why I prefer to use multiple exposures and then blending in Photoshop. If you if you want to get some further training on this, then I've got heaps of material, courses and cheat sheets and instructions inside the Photo Mastery Club members area. So there should be a link just below this video, whether you're watching it on YouTube or on the blog. There should be a link just below the video that you can click to go and get on the waiting list to join the Photo Mastery Club. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.